Hello, welcome to a informational video regarding myopia and myopia control. My name is Dr. Elise Bruns, and I primarily work at the Pewaukee Vision Clinic location, but we also have our Oconomowoc and Watertown Vision clinics. So you may be asking yourself, why did I get sent information regarding this video? So either your child was diagnosed with myopia or is at risk for becoming myopic at their last vision exam, and that's why we wanted to send you this information. And I'll be going over a lot of topics today regarding both myopia and something called myopia control. So let's start with what is myopia. So myopia is commonly known as nearsightedness or short-sightedness. So those of you who are not myopic yourselves, if you are myopic, you are able to generally see things up close, but things far away are blurry. And as the prescription gets higher for myopia, the more blurry things become at a distance, and even things up close can be blurry. So if you look at these little eyeballs here, when a eye is myopic, it's a little bit longer than the normal vision eye. And so the light isn't falling in the correct place in the back of the eye, which is causing things to be blurry. So to correct for that, we use either glasses or contact lenses to put the light on the correct place of the retina. Now, with time, myopia tends to increase with age to a certain point where it starts to level off into our mid-teens or 20s, and then our prescriptions tend to stabilize. As you become more myopic, the more blurry things become far away. And if you wanted to simulate what it's like to be myopic, you can go to this website. It's coopervision.com/myopia-simulator. And you can play with what it's like to have no glasses prescription, a mild myopic prescription, let's say about a -2. And then if you're a high myope, that would be around that -6. So you can play with a little toggle bar at the bottom of the screen, and that will show you what it's like to have those different ranges of prescription. So why is becoming more myopic a problem? From a quality of life standpoint, it increases your child's dependence on glasses or contact lenses. So they have to have their glasses or their contacts with them in order to drive, go to school, even see across the hall. That gets more difficult as your prescription gets higher. And as the prescription gets higher, your glasses lenses get really, really thick and heavy. So if you look at that photograph that's showing us those Coke bottle style glasses, that's a very high prescription. And yes, there are some lens materials we can use that make the glasses more lightweight and thinner, but they're still going to be heavy if that prescription becomes higher with time. And then as that prescription levels off in your mid-teens to late 20s, the corrective surgeries like LASIK do become more risky, or your child may be ineligible for that type of surgery if their prescription became really high. As a eye health care provider, I'm concerned about what does this do for their eye health later in life. So the more myopic you become, the greater risk you are for developing certain eye diseases. Number one would be glaucoma, which is a side vision disease. You're more likely to develop cataracts earlier in life. You're at a greater risk for something called a retinal detachment, which is extremely sight threatening if it occurs. And the last one is called myopic maculopathy. You can think of it like macular degeneration. It's a disease that destroys your central vision, and that can make life very difficult if you do develop that disease. And these are big ranges as far as the risk, because it depends on how high the prescription gets. The higher or more myopic the patient is, the greater risk they are developing each of these eye diseases later in life. So myopia has become a global epidemic, which is why I'm so passionate about this topic. It's predicted by 2050 that half of the world will be myopic. And if you look at the USA alone, in 2030, it's going to be about 40 million people. And by 2050, it'll be 45 million people. So a large population is going to be myopic in the next few decades. So why are we becoming more myopic, and why is it happening across the globe? So there's a lot of research going into why this is occurring, and I can tell you a few things about it, although it's not 100% understood at this point. One factor is that we are spending less time outside. There's a study done where children who spend more time indoors are more likely to become myopic and have higher myopic prescriptions than those who spend more time outside. And as you continue to do things up close indoors, so reading, doing your schoolwork, and then playing on your iPad afterward or doing a video game on your computer, that's also driving that prescription to get higher. It's just sending a signal for your eye to get longer, which means you're more myopic. And the last part of it is genetics. So there are some non-environmental factors that are contributing to the risk of myopia. So for the genetics portion, if neither parent is myopic, either they are hyperopic, meaning farsighted, or they don't wear glasses at all, their child has a 25% risk of becoming myopic. If one parent is myopic, then they have a 30% chance of their child becoming myopic. And if both parents are nearsighted, then they have a 50% chance of becoming myopic. So there are some factors that increase their risk as far as genes. And we can also predict where a child might fall as they grow, even if they aren't myopic right now. So if we do an exam on a young child who's under the age of 6, and we find that they are less than plus 0.75 as far as their prescription, they're at a high risk of becoming myopic as they age. So it's important for us to see young kids, even if they don't complain or if they don't have any glasses prescription, we can use those values to determine where they may end up as they grow. So this is a graph that shows what can happen to a patient if they are nearsighted at a young age and where their prescription will go by the time they're in that late teens to early 20s. So if you look at the red line here, we have a patient who started at about a -1.5 on the y-axis, or the vertical one. That's showing us the prescription. And then on the x-axis, or the horizontal, that's showing us age, so just over time. So over time, if that patient were to progress at a normal rate, they may end up at a -8 at the end of their growth and maturation process. Now, if you see those other 3 lines below it, there's a yellow, a blue, and then that pink one. That's showing if we try to slow down that progression of the prescription. That would be myopia control. And I'm going to talk more about that here in a little bit. So what can we do about myopia? So number one would be scheduling an eye exam for your child so that we can monitor for myopia and for myopia progression, or meeting that prescription getting higher. We would encourage you to have your children play outside, so more than 2 hours a day. That's the clinic timestamp for it as far as the study that was done for outdoor play, so you have to be outside for more than 2 hours. Next thing would be reducing the amount of time that your child spends on things up close. So they're going to do their schoolwork up close in that arm's reach. And then if they like to play video games, then they're just continuing to do near activities once they're done with their schoolwork. So trying to encourage your child to do something where they're out in free space and they're not focusing on something up close. And the last thing would be considering doing some treatment for myopia control if your child's at risk or is already myopic. So myopia control is where we try to slow down that rate of change so that their prescription doesn't continue to get higher. And that's going to improve their quality of life. So it's a lot easier to be a -2 or a -3 in the world than it is to be a -8 or a -10. You can just function a lot better. Your glasses and contacts are easier. If you wanted to have LASIK later in life, you definitely would still be eligible for that. So it improves their quality of life in the long run. And then for an eye care professional, I'm concerned about what is this going to do for their risk for vision loss later in life. So if we can control that end point for them, it reduces their future risk for eye disease, and that was the glaucoma, macular degeneration. So what are our options? There are 3 options that are about equally effective, about 50% reduction in progression. And the first one is something called atropine. It's a medicated eye drop. It's given at a very low dose at night before bed. It's believed to slow down the signal that drives the eye to elongate. The second option is orthokeratology. That is a small hard contact lens that your child wears overnight. And then during the day, they don't need to wear glasses or contacts. It actually reshapes the front surface of their eye. And that allows them to be glasses or contact lens free. It also does something called defocus. And that, again, is trying to reduce that signal for the eye to grow. The peripheral defocus contacts is the soft lens version of that. So you wear a soft contact lens during the day, just like a normal contact lens. But the design of it is somewhat like a multifocal, where there are multiple prescriptions in that contact, which are clinically proven to slow down that rate of progression. Now, I do have bifocal or progressive glasses on there as an option, but I separated it with that little line because although that type of prescription or glasses can help slow down, it's not clinically significant. So, from a treatment standpoint, it's helpful, but it's not as good as those other three options. So, if myopia or myopia control is something that you're interested in learning more about, you can go to oconomowocvisionclinic.com, or you can call the Pewaukee Vision Clinic at 262-521-9383. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a great day.